Oaxaca. Say that 3 times fast. All right, so this is like the mozzarella of Mexican food. And can you see this? Look, this is tacos I made from it. I made our first batch on Friday and we didn't record it because I didn't know if it'd work out, but it did. So let's get started. I was challenged to make this Oaxaca from goat milk and wasn't sure I was going to be able to pull it off, and I watched a bunch of YouTube videos of it being made in Mexico and watched a Andrew Zimmern one, which was pretty good, and then looked up a couple recipes, and I combined several different recipes to do what I thought would work with our goat milk, and this is what I ended up with. So the first thing we need to do is take 2 gallons of milk, and this is our raw goat milk again, and I'm going to heat it up to 92 degrees. We're up to 92 degrees and it's time to add the culture. Most of the recipes that I read called for a thermophilic culture, so we're going to go ahead and use that, but we're also going to use a mesophilic culture. I'm going to use 1 packet of this thermophilic, and I'm going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of the MM100 culture. And the reason I'm doing this is to shorten our ripening times. Some that just called for the thermophilic culture had you ripen for like 3 hours here, and then for like another 3 hours on the back end before you went and pulled it. And I don't want to be stretching this cheese at 10 o'clock tonight. So I'm going to add this mesophilic culture, which will help bring our acidity down to the levels we need faster. So let's let that rehydrate for 5 minutes and stir it in. All right, mixing this culture in. Some of the recipes that I saw from Mexico didn't actually put a culture in. They just used the fresh milk, but they would let it sit like all day or overnight to acidify. So that was kind of interesting. We're not going to do that. We're going to make this go faster. All right, once you get that worked in, set a timer for 1.5 hours, and we'll come back and add the rennet. Okay, our temperature dropped a little bit while it was ripening, so I just popped the heat on to get our temperature back up to 91 and turn that off. We're going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of rennet. I'm using this animal rennet, and mix that in a 1/4 cup of water. And we're going to let that sit for 30 minutes. Now it's going to start setting up faster in like 10 or 15 minutes, but let it sit the whole 30. And then we'll come back and cut these curds. All right, we are all set up now. I'm going to cut these into 1/2-inch cubes. I'm going to do my vertical cuts each way and then use my ladle to do the horizontal cuts. Once I've got them all cut, I'm going to let this sit for the edges to heal up for about 5 minutes. Okay, now I'm going to turn the heat on to low and stir these gently. Continue to break them up slowly into those 1/2-inch pieces as you go, and raise the temperature over 1/2 hour to 105 degrees. So we'll just go slow. Be gentle with your curds. I think I'll get my iPad and turn on some YouTube videos to keep me company while I do this. So we'll check back in with you as we get these cooked down a little bit. I've been stirring these about 5 minutes, and it's at about 100, well, let's do that down, 90-some degrees, 98 degrees. It's against the edge of the pot there. So I've been working on getting these curds all broken up to the same size, and you can see that they're starting to cook down a little bit. When I did this the other day, as I got to the end and the curds were starting to look dry enough, I didn't stir consistently. I just let them sit and then stirred them every couple of minutes, so we'll see how they go this time. But I'm going to keep on stirring these and working on them for a little while longer. I've been stirring for about 20 minutes now. And you see the curds are starting to get even smaller. They're still pretty juicy, but we don't really need to worry about drying them out all the way like you do on some hard cheeses. when we let this sit afterward to acidify, it's going to continue to drain. So I keep working on it. We're at about 103.5 degrees now. We are at 105 degrees and it's been 30 minutes now. And you see these curds are cooked down a good bit. Okay, I'm going to drain this through a cloth-lined colander now, and then we're going to consolidate the curd mass inside of the cloth and put it back down in this pot to keep it warm. Alright, so I have this little rack, and I'm going to put this down in the bottom of the pot so that it's not sitting on the way. And consolidate all this, wrap this up. Like so. And we want this to stay warm so that it can continue to create acid over the next half hour to, I think it took an hour and a half yesterday to be ready. Alright, so there is my curd in the cloth on the rack, draining. Keep an eye on the amount of whey that's in there. You don't want it to be sitting in the whey, so you might need to pour some off if there gets to be too much. And I'm going to start checking this every 30 minutes to see if it's ready to pull. Can't remember if I said to put the lid on. Put the lid on. You're also going to need a pot of hot water to stretch this. I did it yesterday at 185 degrees, but I think that was a little warm. I'm going to try to stretch it on a little cooler side, and hopefully when I go to melt the cheese again in a dish, it'll melt a little better than it did with what I did last time. So I'm just going to get this water heating up. We got this waiting. We'll check it in 30 minutes. Okay, this has been about an hour now since we took it out and have been letting the curds acidify. And I put this one in some 165 degree water, just a little piece. And you see it's starting to stretch, but it's not stretching real long before it breaks. So I'm going to give it another 15 minutes and we'll check again. I've got my gloves on because this is going to be hot. I've got a bowl of cool water here. We are about ready to stretch. It's been a little over an hour and a half total on these curds. So let me get this out of the cheesecloth here. And I think what I'm going to do is, can you see? Let's do 5 balls. So I'm just going to cut them into chunks like that and put all but one back, and we're going to stretch one at a time. So put those in there to keep them warm. Oops, one more. And you can actually see now with this curd that even before it's heated up, it's starting to get a little stretchy and rubbery. So I'm going to cut it into about 1/2 inch chunks. Put them in our bowl. And then I've got this water here. It's at 170. I was going to do it about 165, but it's a little hotter. We're going to roll with it and just see how it works out. What I'm trying to do is make sure it melts better after it's been stretched, and then when you go to cook with it, because sometimes it doesn't want to melt as much. And I got to thinking maybe it's the higher temperature. So spoon that water over. And then be a little patient because we want this to get melty and it'll all start to kind of glom together. Okay, let's look at some of these. See, they're starting to melt, not quite done. Just going to work it gently. I don't want to work the whey and everything out of it too much. So I'll put another sip of water over. Okay, I think we've pretty well got a ball going. And now what we want to do is we want to pull it like candy. And you want all of the protein chains to be going in the same direction. So we're going to pull it several times until it starts to make like a thin, almost like a ribbon. So you can kind of fold it over. You want it to be like a smooth ribbon, kind of flat and maybe about 1 inch wide. And once you're getting there, we're going to wrap it up like a ball of yarn. You can dunk it back in the water if it's getting too cool on you and wanting to break. So put it back in, and I'm going to start just pulling it and wrapping it in itself. So you want it kind of a smooth, consistent size ribbon. Where it's getting warm and wants to break, I just put it back down in the water. Or getting cool, I guess, saying things backward. All right, wrap it around. If you work it less, it's going to be a little softer, and then the ones that you work a little more will be a little firmer cheese, I've found. So kind of decide what your preference is. This one's a little softer. I'll work the next one a little more. See, it's wanting to collapse. Here, maybe I'll put this one around this way. That's pretty. All right, there's one. And then pop it in my cool water and do the next one. Really helps to dunk your fingers in the cool water. I'm going to work this one a little more just so you can see the difference. It's getting nice and shiny. Let me just do it one more time. Okay, I'm going to pull this and start winding it up. Well, getting real thin on that end. We got kind of a wide double-ended ribbon here. That'll just have to work. There we go.
Much later.
I have a saturated brine here that I had in the refrigerator, and we're going to brine our cheeses for 45 minutes. And I'll pop up on the screen the exact measurements for the brine. I don't recall it off the top of my head, so I'll put that up there for you. So take your little cheeses, put them in your bowl. I'm just going to put enough of this on to cover them. About 20 minutes in, I'll flip them over so that they get salted all the way around. So 45 minutes on those. All right, time to take these out of the brine now. They sure look good. I'm going to save that brine for later. Okay, and then to eat these, is that you can just unwind it. And sometimes when it gets into the middle, it's a little harder to unwind. It kind of sticks together more. But I shred them, put them on quesadillas and stuff. It tastes an awful lot like mozzarella. Let me know how your Oaxaca turns out. Take the time to share and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out a lot. Thanks again. Real quick, I just want to step back in. I took a piece and I put it in the microwave because I wanted to see if it was doing a better job melting. And well, it's been a minute since I came and turned the camera back on, so it's not all melty anymore. But it did melt a whole lot better when it was stretched at a lower temperature. So something to keep in mind. See ya.